This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. I'm Pim Fox. Now, one of the most, popular investment opportunities could be rising middle classes in places such as China, South America, and Africa. Well, my next guest is an expert on the topic. I'm joined now by Mortimer of Marvin TRUAB Associates. He's the president and the chief executive. And also with us, we have Karen Tramontano, the chief executive of Blue Star Strategies. Mortimer, good to have you with us. Explain for people that may not be familiar, Marvin TRUAB Associates, well, it's named after Marvin TRUAB, who's one of the legends in the world of retail.
Of course.
What does the company do? What kind of things does it develop?
Oh, TRUAB is one of the leading business development and strategy consulting firms in the retail, consumer, and fashion space. So we advise brands on how to take them around the world, bring brands into the United States. We work with real estate developers and all about how to grow revenue, and it's really a revenue generation engine first, and that's how we work.
And one of the most recent places that you've been is Abu Dhabi, where you've been working on some projects. Tell us about what's going on there.
Absolutely. We worked with and helped bring Related, actually, New York City Related, into a joint venture in Abu Dhabi called Gulf Related, and we are opening this August. We've been working for 3 years on building the Galleria at Soho Square, which is a huge development, mixed use, not dissimilar to the Time Warner Center actually here in New York City, and all the brands you can think of are opening there this August, and we're now working on the extension, and Abu Dhabi's on fire, literally. It's a really good market.
Karen, I know that you work with a lot of foreign clients at Blue Star. I mean, you help them navigate the ins and outs of the government and regulations and so on. What would you be saying to those companies overseas that look to the United States? Should they be following a lot of our models, or should they develop those that are intrinsic to their own domestic markets?
Well, for those companies that are foreign companies wanting to come into the U.S. market, it behooves them to follow the transparency principles in the U.S. market. They really can't succeed without doing that. We also represent a number of U.S. companies in about 25 different markets, emerging markets and in transitional economies. And they're looking for that transparent process. They're looking for a stable economic growth. They're also looking for rule of law. And so we're advisors in those capacities as well.
Mortimer, building developments in places like Abu Dhabi, I mean, you've got to pull a lot of the pieces together, but you've also got to have confidence. Do they recognize that there is global economic confidence, or are they concerned? Do you hear this kind of nagging anxiety and worry about maybe the stock market will not continue to increase? The only reason the economies of the world are doing as they're doing is because of central bank intervention. What's the view from places like Abu Dhabi?
Well, I would say from Abu Dhabi and the UAE, which is, as far as I'm concerned, sort of a Mediterra right now for not just the Middle East, but regionally. They have become, for Europe as well as for Asia, really a central business hub. And I think they feel very confident in and of themselves as well. They obviously feel part of the global economy. But if you look at the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa region, it's sort of the other brick. If you take the 21 countries of the Middle East, North Africa region, they have, over $4.3 trillion of GDP, which is actually larger than...
But as Karen mentioned, I mean, rule of law, you want to go into a place where you can be assured that the legal system works evenly.
True, and in some cases, some countries, it's harder than others. But if you go into India, you have the rule of law, but then there are other bureaucratic things to think about. And if you go into China, where there is not necessarily the same kind of rule of law that we might enjoy in the West, you have the ability to get certain things done, but it's through connections. So there's a bit of give and take.
Give and take. Well, consumers, they like to take as long as they can afford it. Middle class in places like Vietnam, for example, they spending money?
They are, and they're not only spending money on consumables, but they care deeply about brand. There's been a lot of pent-up demand, and they've seen and watched Western media, and they like European, but also U.S. brands, the Calvin Kleins and the Tommy Hilfigers and the Ralph Lauren. So there's a lot of room and runway out there for brands of all shapes and sizes, from Western and Europe and the United States, to grow beyond China. Everyone thinks, oh, China's the big opportunity, but if you aggregate all the emerging markets, you're really adding something up.
And there's investable money for this. People want to get into these businesses.
There are franchisees waiting to take all brands into all of these markets, and they're lining up. And some of the biggest brands are there already.
I want to thank you both very much. Mortimer Singer, he is of Marvin TRUAB Associates, the president and the chief executive. And our thanks to Karen Tramontano, the chief executive of Blue Star Strategies. Coming up next,